A very good afternoon to you and welcome to today's edition of Joy Business Masterclass. Masterclass is powered by Joy Business and is brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. Masterclass comes your way every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. and runs all through to 2:15 p.m. here on your superstation Joy 99.7. My name, as always, is Yaw Anim Barnafo, and I'm glad to be your host for today's edition of Masterclass. Last week here on the show ended a conversation about skill set and mindset and the power of saying. We had here on the show with us for that couple of 4 weeks, I think it was, Oscar Bimpong, who's a household name when it comes to a conversation on mindset revolution. He shared a lot of thoughts with us, and I sincerely hope that you picked up some thoughts and some nuggets which is going to help your business, your endeavor, regardless of what you're involved in. He talked about the power of the mind. If you can believe it enough, then you can do it. And after you've believed it, then you need to develop your skill set. But then he also went on to say that even if you have the right skill set and the wrong mindset, that makes for an imbalance which would affect the output. Oscar, good afternoon to you if you're doing the listening. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts with us. And please, by all means, do go on with the fight on the revolution for mindset. As we always do here on Masterclass, we're moving on to another area of conversation today. And today we're talking about business growth. And so we're looking at fueling your business growth through strategic communication. We've always talked about communication being a very integral part of whatever we do, whether it's business, whether it's a company you're managing, whether it's people you're managing. Communication plays a key role. And so we're going to be introducing our resource person very shortly. But just to remind our listeners that we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube and also on X. So by all means, to go there and watch us on the show. We'll be talking about strategic communication here on the show. And our resource person has one of those CVs that I get very excited about. He's a purpose-driven, dedicated public relations scholar. He's a practitioner. He's a storyteller. And he's also a senior lecturer and head of department for the PR department at the University of Media Arts and Communication. His CV goes on and on and on and on. And there's something I'm excited about today. Because he's here and because he's head of department at the UNIMAC, I am informed that the entire UNIMAC University is listening to Masterclass this afternoon. So a big shout out from the show going out to all the students and staff of UNIMAC, because your head of department is here on the show. He's going to be here for 4 weeks. So please, we want you not to only listen today, listen for 4 weeks. But I'll be amiss if I don't give special mention to the Vice Chancellor of the UNIMAC University, Professor Eric Opoku Mensah, and also to the Rector of the University, Professor Christiana Hammond. Thank you so much for doing the listening. We're honored to have you here on the show, and we do hope sincerely that when we get interactive, you pick up that phone, give us a call or send a message so that we can be a part of this conversation. Today, we start the conversation on communications, and to do that for us is none other than someone who has been here on the show, a household name, a friend of the show, I call him. He's been here many times, and he's obliged us time again from his busy schedule. Help me make welcome Dr. Ike Tandoh. Doc.
Yeah,
I'm super excited to have you here.
I am so happy. The way I saw you, I was so happy. And I mentioned that today is my birthday. Seeing you alone, I have to celebrate
Doc,
my birthday.
the feeling is mutual.
Seeing you alone.
The feeling is mutual because I know that we will not leave here without learning something. And for those who know Dr. Tandoh, you'll know that he's very active on social media. When he talks, every day he's dropping something. And I pick some of your thoughts and I share with people, and it motivates them so much. So having you here on the show, I know that we're going to learn a lot today. I promised that I won't talk too much. So today I'm not going to talk too much. Whenever I say that, my producer looks at me and says, "Yeah, I hope you don't talk too much today."
That's how we the talking is just...
I'll try not to talk too much today, but I'll just slip this in though.
That's fine.
This was a statement by George Bernard Shaw. He's an author and a business consultant. And he says this about communication in business. He says that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Let that sink in for a bit as we listen to Dr. Ike Tandoh. Doc, talk to us today.
Thank you so very much, Yaw, and good afternoon to all your viewers, your listeners, and everybody tuning in at this time to listen to us, share some few thoughts, trying to make sure that we grow together, we expand our businesses, and we become happy people living in Ghana. I'm happy 24-hour economy is also coming, so business are going to grow them more. And like you did mention, I'm Dr. Tandoh from the University of Media Arts and Communications, Institute of Journalism, and people still you get a little bit of confusion. They say, GIJ, Ghana Institute of Journalism, who are you? And Ghana Institute of Journalism, we've now come. Okay, let me use the street term. We have rebranded.
Okay.
I say street term in comments. I'll explain later to become University of Media, Arts and Communication. So now we are, it's GIJ, NAFTI, old NAFTI, old Ghana Institute of Languages. We've come together to form University of Media.
A lot of alumni then.
A lot of alumni, a lot of things that you can learn from with art. If you are talking about film, we are there. If you are talking about languages, we are there. And then your usual PR in journalism, then the GIJ, formerly GIJ, now UNIMAC-IJ. We are also there to provide you with that education,
and I think
that
it
support.
would be fair to say that communication is your forte.
That is our hub.
Exactly.
We are the leaders. That's what we do. That's what we do.
So we are in good hands.
100%. And we make sure that we will try and make good use of your time. And also, thank you very much for inviting me on the show again. And like you said, I've become a friend of the show and a stakeholder. And I don't take it lightly at all.
Thank you very much.
Today, you've just called me here to talk on something that is very essential. And I like the quote that you just recited or mentioned, that people feel that they have communicated, but they are living in that assumption. And I have some interesting code I also share, that a lot of business leaders actually think they are communicating, but they are not. They are just talking.
Yes.
So people feel communication should be easy. It's one of the most easiest jobs that people think that it can be done by anybody because you can talk, because you can write, you can just. I was just sharing a thought with your producer. Said now people have very good iPhones and some ring lights, so when they put it on, they think that they are communication experts, branding experts, and they can go about their business. They don't want to come to school to learn the basics. But I say that, especially for the emphasis of today's lecture, we are talking about strategic communication, being intentional with your communication, not just talking. Because when you talk, you might mix exactly what you really want to communicate to the audience, or you might even say the right things, but to the wrong audience. Exactly. So if you want to communicate purposefully, strategically, there are some few things I want to share with your listeners and with your audience. And I just want to also say that the concept of strategic communications and its relationship with business growth is very broad, it's very wide. And I can't do this in everything in today's session. So thankfully you give us 1 month.
Indeed.
So we are going to have the introduction today. Next week we come back, and by the time the 4th week ends, we would have established the direct relationship between effective strategic communications and business growth, or if you like, competitive advantage.
Right.
So to just move in and then dive straight into the topic for today. I think you might have heard of the word strategic communications. People say it, people use it loosely sometimes. What is it? What is the concept? When you say strategic communication, what is it? Strategic communications is being intentional about your communication, communicating with purpose while trying to also share and showcase value in the communication that you are sharing in order to achieve a goal. Communicating with purpose while showcasing value to achieve a purpose. Or if you like, strategic communication could also be seen as a very intentional, coordinated communication that is aligned to your business goals. A very intentional, coordinated communication that is aligned with your organizational goals. So the key words are: it's intentional, it is purposeful, it is aimed towards achieving a goal. It is not just a loose talk. It's not just talking, but it is strategy because you want to head or you want to pass an information, you want to pass value to an audience to achieve a certain predetermined outcome that I would talk about in very soon. So that is strategic communications, if you like. So now, let's see why we think strategic communication is important, or we think that businesses should pay attention to being strategic with their communication, but not just talking. Most often than not, and I will share a practical example. I work with a white lady somewhere in the US, Colorado, and anytime we had a one-on-one, we will finish with one-on-one, and I ask myself, what did she ask me to go and do? And it was a new field for me. I tried to practice change management. Just like we were saying, I like to learn small things everywhere. Yeah. So I tried to learn change management, and I was new in the space. I was selling under a white lady. who speaks very fast and I couldn't understand. But I realized that she lacked communication. So most of the things that she wanted me to do, in her mind, she thinks she had communicated it to me. So in our next meeting, she said, I have to do A, B, C, D. And I said, no, you didn't say it. That's what I thought I said it. Because she wasn't intentional, because she wasn't purposeful, because the communication went planned, most often than not, she communicates in halves, but not in full. The communication is almost always not complete. And I can think and feel that majority of our business leaders also suffer from that same problem. They think that they have given instructions to their employees. They think that they have communicated a certain key message in an ad or a certain key message in the fact sheet or any other of the communication tool that they may intend using. But in actual fact of the cases may be that they have failed to actually say exactly what they wanted to say or exactly what they meant to say. So there's always that
what you mean.
There's always that missing link. And I say to my students and everybody that one of the greatest things in communication is assumption. People assume that you will know, or people assume that once I open my mouth, you will catch whatever I wanted to push across. That is where strategic communication comes in, being purposeful, being intentional about drafting key message that will resonate with a target audience in order to achieve a business goal or a purpose. So that is the whole intent behind the concept strategic communication. It is very, very essential. Very few years ago, when you go to look at business management or the framework of organizations and organizational chart, you realize that when you are talking of the key business units, they'll be talking about finance, they are talking about HR, they are talking about logistics, they are talking about, if you like, audits. Communications was something that will come under beneath somewhere, lost somewhere. And even if you were going to apply for a job, they say, what are your key skill sets or strengths that did you have? You are talking about your ability to use Microsoft Excel, your ability to do that. And you say that additional skill set will be communication. But if you're a business person listening to me, if you own an organization, or if you're a startup, or if you're even dreaming of establishing an organization or a business, I just want to tell you that communication is not an afterthought. Communication is not auxiliary. Communication should be a hard unit, a hard core that you must put your hands on it, you must put your eyes on it, because that is the driver. Yeah. That will drive your vision, that will drive your mission, that will drive that serious banks that you have been chasing or you have been dreaming of buying. If the communication is not effective, brilliant ideas, brilliant goals are kept under the bed, are nipped in the bud because they are not able to communicate it plainly, clearly, consistently in order to achieve a purpose or in order to achieve a business goal. That is what strategic communication is meant to do for you as an entrepreneur, as a startup, as a big organization, or even as an individual. You did mention that you've been following me and I share a lot. I am a brand. You are a brand. All of you listening to me are brands. Brands, your value, and then whatever you want to communicate or say, or whatever you want people to know about your service. I am a consultant. I sell my service. I sell my knowledge. I sell my expertise in communications, in marketing, in branding. If I should sit in my room at America and sleep there and think that Yaw at Joy FM will get to know that, yes, I'm an expert in comms. So there's a training that they need a facilitator. And automatically, and then by magic, Yaw will know that I have an expert and come for me. What am I doing? I'm just dreaming in a wonderland. If you are not communicating, nobody will find you. Visibility is extremely key. And visibility is one of the goals of strategic communication. Help organizations to create visibility. Nobody will tell your story until you get up to tell your story. Organizations must communicate their values. They must communicate their stories in order to make sure that they will resonate with the public. They will be seen, they will be known, and they will be sought after. People would want to come to you for the particular goods or service that you deal in. So communication, for that matter, purposeful communication is so essential for your business goals, your business growth. Tell your story. And if you do not tell your story, others, your competitors will tell it for you. If you do not tell your story, your competitors will tell it for you. And yeah, one of the most interesting things is that if you allow your competitors to tell your story for you, you know what they will do? They will tell it in the way and manner that they like. And if your competitors are driving your narrative for you, yeah, assuming you and I, we are selling Ghana flags, manufacturing, producing, and I am not communicating, I am heading somewhere thinking that by osmosis, my messages will get out there. People get to know me. And I allow you to do it for me. You're also selling the same thing. What is happening? Excuse me, you are not so dumb that you go and paint me so highly in the eyes and minds of the stakeholder, that is the customers, and then you yourself, yours goes under. You will never do that. Definitely, you go and project yourself at the expense of me. So it is very important for organizations to be strategic, to be communicating, and not just communicate. Be strategic, be purposeful, be intentional. How do you become purposeful? How do you become strategic with our communication? So that will lead me to the next point I want to share with my audience. Before I get into the how, let me talk a little bit about some of the elements, some of the key elements in strategic communication that will enhance your business growth. Number one, audience targeting. I'm talking about the markets, I'm talking about audience and audience and audience. And when you go to my YouTube, I've said that among the 4 pillars of a communication strategy, in most literature, in most authors have argued that the messaging strategy is the mother of it all, is the potent one. But for me, I disagree. And when you look at my studies in 2017, Marketing, Communication, and Competitive Advantage for Banks in Ghana, I've argued in that paper that the audience targeting, or the audience analysis, or if you like, the audience strategy is the most potent one, is the mother of all the strategies in the communication strategy framework. Why do I say the audience strategy is the key? Because your audience are your drivers. Your audience drive you. You don't determine from them. Now audience are becoming very sophisticated because we also talk about social media. Now everybody can read, now everybody can search for information. So if you don't really segment and know your audience very well, you almost always misfire. You think you are talking to them, but you are just pouring water under a certain rooftop that you might not want to take. So analyzing your audience, knowing their preference, knowing how much they know, knowing where they want to find you is essential in the strategic communication process. Then the messaging strategy also comes in. Knowing the reason why I always argue that the audience strategy is the mother of it all is that once you know the audience, it's very easy for you to select your message.
That has helped a lot of endeavors, reverse engineering, feedback. We call it feedback, right? You're putting something out in the market. You need to understand what are they looking for.
Definitely.
It's the same thing that the phone companies have done. It's the same thing that iPhone, Samsung, all the brands. That's what they've done.
I wouldn't say all. Some.
Okay.
Yes, I wouldn't say all. When you look at the picture, I have some interest statistics. Maybe in our future discussions, I'll project and you do some analysis to see that some are trying. Some are just also
They're still going the wrong way.
Definitely, chasing their goals. Also because in my study I did in 2020, I realized that most of them are missing the target because they don't put the right people in the right hole. If you can talk, if you can speak, if you permit me to say in tree, I know you're there, yes, so you're a communicator, they put you there, communication manager, PR manager, etc. But the basis they are missing. That is why I would want to, I hope you are not going to give me an invoice for this. Come to UNIMAC-IJ.
You are here on the show today.
We'll take our time and train you as to how you can be effective with your communication. How organization can also elect or appoint very qualified people who can drive their communication because it is very important.
Now, everything you do, you must be intentional and deliberate about it. And you talk about the customer. The customer is spot for choice. The customer has become sophisticated. The customer is also learning. Gone are the days when people will just lap up everything you give them. Now, for everything you are selling to somebody or giving to somebody, they've got 5 things to choose from. And it's getting worse. So you have to be deliberate about it.
Purposeful.
It begs the question.
It's something we can't negotiate about. So the elements in strategic communication, I talk about the audience, be the mother of it all. And it becomes very easy if you take your time to analyze the audience, know them. The messaging becomes easy because if I know Yaw, I know when I speak this language, when I gesture, when I throw my left hand, Yaw would be able to catch what I'm trying to say. So knowing your audience is key. It will help you to develop content that are reasonable, content that are in need, content that will hit their motivations, that will also bring their resistance down in order for them to fall in love with you.
Because they can connect.
They can connect with you. They can resonate with you. They understand your language. They understand you when you close your eyes. They understand you when you scratch your nose. They know what you are communicating with them. So knowing your audience is key. It will drive you. It will help you to develop key messages that would resonate with them. And then for the messaging, one of the things I want to share with audience is that we must be clear. And I gave you an example of myself and with this Obroni that I was working with. Most of the things managers say, most of the things business leaders say, they are not clear.
You think you said it?
They think they have said it, assuming they say 30% of what they want to say, they keep 70% in there. And I don't know whether we think we should become.
I am not in your head. Say what you want to say.
How can I be in your head? But you must know. But they will not know. Communicate clearly and consistently with your audience or with your customers for them to be able to know.
I know I'll get questions on this particular thing. Can't you use your
mind? There is difference between being proactive and then being a leader who provide the strategic goal for your people to follow. A lot of leaders are mixing their responsibilities or their duties of being the shield, being the leader, being the pathway. Create the path for them. People can be creative about the methodology at getting at the goal. But the goal communication lies with what? Leaders. Leaders must learn how to communicate clearly and purposefully in order for us to catch the vision and the mission.
Say that if at the end of any communication process, be it whoever is involved, if clarity or confusion arises, then you haven't effectively
you have not done that. You have not been effective communicating. And you bring more chaos, you promote more resistance, you promote many more people to be deviant and then to be against whatever you want to share. Then the next of the communication strategy framework will be the channel. Once you know your audience, once you have been able to develop some key message, the channel also becomes easy because you know your audience, where to find them. For example, if you are I write for children, so all the novels I've authored are for young adults. And where can I find young adults these days? They are all on Twitter. They are all on. So with the greatest of respect, I work for graphics, so I wouldn't stand here and say anything against graphics. But I don't remember the last time I went to buy a page for graphic to advert because that is not where my audience are.
They are not there.
They are not there now. The channel is. That is why you also said that you see me on Facebook, on social media a lot. I do that purposefully because that is what gives me food to eat. That is why I was able to buy petrol to come here. That's why I find my audience. That's where they are.
It's relevant
100%
for the exchange that you're looking for.
100%. So the channel strategy, knowing your audience will drive you to select purposeful channel that will help you convey your key messages to your audience. Your audience could be both internal. Most often than not, people look at the external audience, the customers, but your internal. I am a brand consultant. Anytime I am somebody calls me to consult for an issue in branding, I say, why do you people spend 80 to 90% of your branding effort focusing on the external customers and they leave 10 to 5% on the internal customers? I have a huge problem with that. But if you want to drive a brand that will stand, an organization that will live, I just passed by Odorice, my aide took me to Odorice. I said, whoa, they are still there. I remember in 1999 when I was a student at UNIMAC-IJ, we used to come once every semester. When you get Alawa, you used to come there. And they have survived for 20 years. What are they doing right? They are doing something purposeful that has been able to keep that brand for all these years. If we are not communicating well, if we are not using the right channels to look at where our customers are and how we can reach them, we would always be like you are in the forest and it's dark and you are shooting. You become aimless. You don't know whether you want to kill an elephant.
Friendly fire.
100%. So the channel selection, if my students were here, I'll tell them they should go and read about the media richness theory. The media richness theory will help you to know the kind of medium or media that will give you richness in the communication or in the messaging that you want to convey. Then the most important thing I don't want to forget, and I always encourage people to look at it, be intentional about feedback. Be very intentional. So once you know your audience, once you've done your messaging, your key messaging with clarity, with conciseness, with simplicity and all that, and once you have been able to select channel, and I'm giving an assignment to my business leaders listening to me today, please go and read about the media richness theory. Next week when I come, we will do some Q&A around it. And you must be intentional about feedback, because we have said on this platform that assumption is the greatest sin of communication. You don't want to assume. So if you want to find out whether your key message resonated and they were also received the way you wanted them to receive, the best way is to ask feedback. And I say this thing again in my brand's communication class. Even Jesus Christ, who is perfect, asked for feedback. Who do people say I am? He was soliciting for feedback. He was trying to shape the perception around brand Jesus. So if you're an organization, a business leader listening to me, make feedback part of your business goal.
But
Incorporate feedback
we
mechanism.
don't do feedback very well this side of the world, eh?
At all. People don't want to hear this. And sometimes I wonder about.
Is it also because of the way we give the feedback?
I think it's more about the ego.
I think you can do a whole session for us on feedback.
100%. It's around the ego. Sometimes people feel that, who are you to? But I came with my TA today. Most often than not, anytime I go with, either it's a training or it's a classroom activity, I would ask him, Charlie, saying, tell me the hard fact. If it's not right, so feedbacks are so helpful. It will make you as a brand grow. It will make you try to be, ask the Gen Zs to say, no, what's up? What are your customers saying about you? Be very intentional. Make sure that any communication plan, any activity that you want to initiate in the organization, there's a feedback loop that people can pass information to you, can also share with you.
Even, should I say, they're scared to give feedback because of repercussions. And so you find people asking for anonymity and all of that. Just take 30 seconds and dwell on that feedback thing for me. We're gonna get interactive, but just dwell on that for me for a bit before we get interactive.
Because our organizations and some leading organizations have not been transparent with their employees or with their customers. If you are transparent, if you bring the feeling of, you bring a culture in an organization that promotes we feeling, everybody would own parts. Let's create leaders. Everybody, in my setup, I tell you, everybody is a leader. The driver is a leader. The washman is a leader. The janitor guy is a leader. Everybody is a leader in relation to the kind of responsibility that you are giving to the person. So if you are able to promote that self-belongingness, giving feedback could become easy because we all own a part. But if you create that, I am the boss, everything revolves around me. Who dare you can't go to your boss who can just click? And especially, I say this with a lot of respect, the one-man businesses. When I did my study, I realized that they're sole proprietors and the one business, that those are the kind of segments or areas that have greater share of what we are trying to describe to, because they feel like I work for one radio station, the chief executive told me, you are Tandoh, and so what? Maybe Germany, I mean, Tonko, okay. He just said it.
That thought for me.
So you do not have to.
I'm sure there's a lot more. Definitely. There's a lot more you want to share. But if you just tuned in, this is Masterclass here on your Superstation Joy 99.7. Very exciting discussion here on the show today, talking about fueling business growth through strategic communication. How many times have you not been in places where we've talked about communication, what it is? Sometimes you feel like you understand it until you enter a conversation and you realize you don't. We're going to get interactive, but we'll take a quick message from our sponsors. When we come back, we get interactive.
Your favorite on-air business development program, Joy Business Masterclass, is in session, and you can interact with us on Facebook via the Joy 99.7 FM or Joy Business pages. If you tweet, the handle is at Joy 997 FM or at Joy Business GH. Don't forget to hashtag JB Masterclass. You can also call us on 0302 216541 or send your questions and contributions through to the WhatsApp number 0551 111997, and our facilitators will address your concerns. Attention everyone, class is in progress.
Welcome back. If you've just tuned in, this is Masterclass. We are interactive right now. Numbers to call 0302 216 541. That's 0302 216 541. Or you can also send us your comments on 055 1111997. Very, very, very exciting conversation going on here with Dr. Tandoh on Masterclass today. We're talking about fueling business growth through strategic communication. We've had that conversation on communication many times. What's happening in your business? What's happening in your field of endeavor? How are you communicating? How are you being communicated to? Do you think that your communication is effective? Is it retarding your business growth? Is it helping your business growth? Pick up that phone. Let's have a conversation. Let's be better for it. We cannot all make the same mistakes. Life is too short. So let's learn from each other's mistakes. Pick up that phone. Give us a call. 0302 216 541. Send us a comment on 055 1111997. If you are driving, please do not text while you drive, because we want you to arrive alive. But otherwise, pick up that phone and give us a call. Just to also remind you that today's edition of Masterclass is brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy, Goyle. Yenara, yedia. If you have a motor vehicle of any kind, then here is some great news for you. Good Energy brings you Goyle Super XP, the ideal choice for most vehicles. It is flowing wah-wah at many Goyle stations in the country. Just go fuel up your vehicle and enjoy the smooth ride with all the benefits. Goil Super XP is quality and gives you the correct choice when buying regular fuel. Goil Super XP is fortified with a special additive that gives longevity to your engine and makes your engine perform to the max, using minimal fuel, and is also suitable for most vehicles. Goil, good energy, Goil. Yeah, Nara. Yeah, their phone lines are open. Please pick up that phone, give us a call. Let's start having a conversation on communication in your business. How are you doing it? How is it being done around you? What are your thoughts on that conversation? How can we become better as a people, in our businesses, and as a country, and as a nation? 0302-216-541. Or send us your comments on 055-1111997. Look, I have my questions, but let us continue with your slides.
Definitely.
And then when the phone lines begin to ring, then we'll fill the questions.
Definitely.
Yeah, so let's go ahead.
So I want to lay a very strong foundation so that our listeners and viewers will catch what we are trying to say. What have we heard so far, or what have we said so far? We have said that strategic communication is a purposeful communication. It's communication done with intentionality to achieve a business goal. And the way you can go about is to sit down there and plan. As any business organization goes through the strategic management framework, first of all, there must be strategy analysis. There must be strategy formulation, there must be strategy implementation, and then strategy evaluation, or if you like, strategic audit. The same way applies to your communication strategy. There must be the reason why we are communicating, the strategic objective, the why. There must be the formulation, sit down there, the messaging, the key messaging drafting, the clarity that we talk about of achieving. Then there must be the implementation, the how. How do you do? That's where I'm going to go to right now. The how of the communication that you want to
send across.
To send across.
Let me ask this quick question. What do you say to those who say that communication, like life and other things that happen naturally, though we talk about being deliberate and intentional about it, what do you say to the school of thought that says that whether or not you're deliberate about it, whether or not you are focusing on it or paying attention, you're communicating? You're communicating in one way or the other, whether verbally, non-verbally, by doing your work in a shoddy way, by not opening your shop at 10 p.m. when you should open at 7 p.m. Either way, you're communicating something. What are your quick thoughts on that kind of school of thought?
So that is what I say, that if you are doing purposeful communication or strategic communication, you have a goal.
Exactly.
You can't just do anything to represent anything. But you are so right. If you don't do anything, you are communicating. If you do something, you are communicating. So if I had come
and I want our listeners to hear that as business owners.
Yes.
You gave an example of some of our business owners saying it's my business when I was struggling, when I was doing this. If you keep that mindset, and Oscar, good afternoon to you, you are going to be in the same place, because whether you are deliberate or you are communicating something. You are telling me that you are not serious. You are telling me that I shouldn't take you serious.
That you are not
not reliable.
You are not reliable. You are not open. You are not ready to work with me. And I say that nobody, Kwesichum didn't put Joy FM there for himself. No. He put it there for people to be able to tune in and listen to Business Masterclass. So it's about the people. It's not about us. So it's not your mindset, but it's the mindset of the people and the goal that you have set for yourself. So if you have set your organization and you think that you just want to be closing at the peak time where your customers are looking for you, why did you even open the business in the first place? Then it means you are not being purposeful. So communication must be intentional. Even if you are not saying anything, you must be intentional why you are not saying anything. Because when I'm talking about reputation management, I also talk about the power of silence. Sometimes you decide not to say anything. It's also a strategy, especially in terms of...
It's also a way of communicating.
Especially in terms of Christ, that you don't care, that you don't have to give... For example, if somebody should defame us, God forbid, that Joy Business uses like Tandoh, and he put it in a... Excuse me, okay, I don't want to use any life. PMP is gone now, so let me say PMP. In our days, PMP was very popular.
It was.
And go and put in a PMP, that is dead right now. Why should I bother? So I will just keep quiet. So they are not relevant. But if I should wake up in the morning, somebody put a bad story, and it's on Joy, I have to start going and calling my mother from the cemetery to come and help me defend the story. Because it is big, it has leverage. So I must respond. So it's the kind of strategy. That's why we are talking about. And let me take this time to explain about. I've used the word strategy so many times today. when we say strategy, people think it's a big word. It's just a fanciful
I'm
word.
glad you're breaking it down because it may sound like a big word for some people.
So many people, sometimes we take things for granted. That's why I said that the greatest sin of we communicate to are also assumption. We say things and people should understand. No, let's calm down. And I'm happy you have given us 4 weeks. So you want to be very
intentional
about
and
what
deliberate about how you communicate
and what you want to achieve with these 4 weeks. Strategy is just a fancy word. Strategy is just about a plan. In all the way to strategy, it's just about having a plan.
Saying our way, you know.
It's just about having a plan and committing to the plan and being consistent with the plan. That is strategy. So I am coming to Joy Business News, Joy Business Masterclass. Sorry, and Yaw said I should come at 1:30. I am coming from Amre here. Should I sleep and wake up at 1:15? I don't have a private jet. So if my plan is that I want to sleep and then set off at 1:15, I have planned to fail.
Maybe you are planned to appear and disappear.
100%. But if I know that I want to be here 30 minutes before time, I'll plan that. I'll iron. Yesterday I woke up by 10 p.m. I said, okay, ECG, probably I cannot trust it, so let me iron. I put it there. I showered. By 11 hours off. I came here around 12:15 because I want to settle in before I see your beautiful, handsome face. So strategy is about plan. How do you want to plan to achieve that business goal?
Right.
It can be a half-page plan. It can be a quarter-page plan. It's about a commitment that you have drawn for your organization and you want to see through it.
Exactly.
And the seeing through it, you need to communicate. Yes, you know. Excuse me again. I will say it back in tree.
Please go ahead.
Yes, so no. You can be said, be the meaning power right? Any man, no, you have failed. You in this hour. That's why the Nigerians became so powerful. Their business, because a Nigerian man is confident, even if. With the greatest respect to my Nigerian brothers, even if they are lying, they are very confident in the lying, and you want to believe them. But as Kwamnadomo of blessed memory will say, the Ghanaians and the Famanyame and Pemi want something. So we are always careful with the way.
I'm selling bread, but when he's passing, didn't he see that?
Didn't he see that I'm selling bread?
Do you think he's good?
But the Nigerian man will come to you and say, Oga, this bread A1 is the best in the whole wide world.
You will never die again.
You will never die again. How can you eat bread and never die again?
Well, but he's making a speech.
Yes, I'm saying that he'll tell you that with a lot of confidence. He's communicating a value to you. Our businesses must communicate the value. Don't think that customers by magic or by spiritual strength would be able to align with the value, your business value, and then connect with it. No, we must stand up. We must speak out. We must connect. We must engage purposefully in order to achieve that goal that we want to achieve. Let me put these
phone lines out again. We're interactive right now. I know that we're listening. I know we're enjoying it. I got the feedback that when the conversation is exciting, we don't call because we don't want you to stop talking. But we want to hear your voice. We want you to be a part of the conversation. So please call us. Call us on 0302-216-541 or send us your comment at least on 055-11-11997. I see some people are trying to call me on WhatsApp. I won't be able to pick your WhatsApp call, but just send us a message on 055-11-11997 or pick up that phone. Give us a call on 0302-216-541. Please, let's continue.
So let me use the few minutes left to talk about the how aspect. Now I've talked about what strategic communication is, the elements. So now let's go back to the how, the implementation stage. So I have a goal, I have a plan, I have a content, I have key messaging drafted. How do I go by the implementation so that my consumers or my customers will hear me and know the value that I'm trying to communicate to them? The first thing that you need to do is to ask this question. Let me put it in a very simple way for our listeners. Why are we communicating, or why am I communicating? That's the first thing. Anytime you want to communicate anything, be it to your internal customers, employees, or external customers, first of all, put water in your mouth, let it go through your throat to your stomach, and ask of yourself, why am I communicating? The communication goal. I'm communicating because I want to increase my brand value from 0% or 15% to 30%. So right from day one, you know your communication goal. So you know the content that you are developing, what you expect that content to help you achieve. I want to increase my sales from 10% to 30%. That is the why. That's the objective of the communication. Anytime you are planning to come on Facebook Live or whatever to talk about your business, the first question that you must ask and answer before you come or before you pass any communication content is the why of the communication. Then the second thing I also want to talk about is the audience I talk about. To whom am I communicating with? So having your communication objective, then you think about the audience. Who are my recipients? Who are going to receive the information?
Every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Dick and Harry. Is it every Tom? And then sometimes, so most organizations want to communicate to so many people at the same time. So they want to be everywhere at the same time.
You cannot be all things to all men.
You cannot. It cannot. So that's why we talk about segmentation. Have a targeted audience. Who are your audience? Because I'm selling ice, you sell books. I've been selling books 25 years of my life. And I've stayed there. Now that I became a doctor, people say, jump any for book. And I said, no, that's not my calling. Maybe it's other professors have been called to write for adults, for scholars. God has called me to write for young adults.
Thank God
that is my
for doctors who are writing books for young adults.
Oh, yeah.
I won't say the other side.
Yeah.
Because that is where they form
Yes.
their thoughts and their opinions about
Yes.
life.
Yes.
Thank God for
Yes.
doctors
Yes.
who are writing books for children.
I have stayed in that.
I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. I've stayed in that segment for. I wrote my first book, Dear Mama, in 1999. So over 25 years, I've been in there. And sometimes I get the criticism that, hey, you're a doctor. Why don't you write academic books? Okay, people have been born and blessed. To write academic books. Let them write. I want to stay with what God called me to do. So my segment, my target is young adult. Just like you said, how do you support their education? How do you support their moral upbringing? And a lot of things that these young people are doing right now. If some of us leave that space, I don't know what is going to happen to them. So define your audience. Yeah. Stick there. Don't be helter-skelter. Don't be a dreamer. And one of the things that most Ghanaian organizations or entrepreneurs are not doing right is today they are selling pure water. And then you come to tell me, hey, sure, I went to sell shoes, and shoes are booming. Then he abandoned the pure water selling and he go to sell shoes. Next time you meet somebody who goes to import oil and he's booming. Hey, he's bought a car that is nicer than mine. He dropped that one and go back and sell oil. If you do that,
Christmas is coming. People who are not rice sellers, they will start selling rice.
Everyone, you can't be everywhere. You can't you can't communicate to every audience. There's mass communication there. We talk about that later. But what I came here to say, if you want to be purposeful with your communication, have a target. Target people that you want to communicate to. So I've talked about the why of the communication. I've talked about to whom are we communicating with. That is your audience research. And you can also talk about the value proposition. Yeah. Nobody wants to tune in and listen to Joy Business Masterclass. And at the end of the day, he doesn't want to get something to go home.
Yeah.
So anytime you are communicating, anytime you are writing that copy, anytime you are writing that memo, anytime you are organizing that town hall meeting between you and your employees or between you and your external stakeholders, think of what you are going to say. What is in it for them? What is the value that you want to give to them? You want to sell to them? What should they take home with?
Right.
And start drawing very consistent, simple, relevant key messaging around the value proposition that will help you resonate.
It's interesting you talk about what do they take home, because I looked at my clock and I ran out of time. But the good news is that we're back next week, God willing. So let's sort of bring the conversation home today in a few seconds, if you will. Let's highlight what our takeouts are, if we remember nothing from today's conversation, and what we look forward to next week.
Thank you very much. Yeah. If you've not heard anything, I want you to hear me say that if you are a startup, if you are dreaming of starting a business, or if you have a medium, an SME, or you are a multinational, be purposeful and intentional with your communication. A lot of leaders think they are communicating, but rather they are talking because they do not have a goal and they do not have an expectation of what they are saying, the expected outcome in mind before they communicate. And I'm here to educate and say that strategic communication can help your business growth if you are intentional, you are purposeful about communicating value to your audience. And if you don't rise up to communicate, don't expect your consumers to come into your head and know what is in it for them. Be intentional about that. And I talked about the 4 bigger segments or frameworks in the whole communication strategy. I talk about knowing your audience, understanding your audience. Here we are talking about consumers, we are talking about clients, we are talking about customers. And the customers can be both internal and then external. Know them, know their biases, know their pain points, know their resistance points and issues, know what also motivates them. Then look at the channel. What channel can I use to reach them? Exactly. If they are not on phones, don't go and put your ad or don't go and put your message on Facebook for people who are 60 and above. Now we don't do daily graphic, and I'm so sorry because I love daily graphic. I don't see people buy them as when I was growing up. But now people want to source information from online, from social media. That's why graphic are also going online. Now there's graphic, Enoch is handling graphic online editor. Yes, my mate at UNIMAC-IJ. So know where you can find the audience, the channel. Be very intentional about selecting good channel. Be very also intentional about your messaging. What are we communicating? Know to the extent or the level that people know about the information that you want to share already, so that you don't become boring, so that you don't become repetitive. Indeed. There are certain business leaders, as soon as they say, now we are doing a conference, a meet and greet, MD is coming, everyone's, or be high agony. Why? Because you keep on saying something without inspiring them, without directing them to a different goal. So these are some of the things I want to take on. But I want to take our time because we have 4 weeks so that we don't really confuse our audience. I want you to work with us. We are holding hands and we are taking things step by step. And I hope and pray that at the end of that 4 weeks, we'll be able to achieve something that is very good and you'll be able to learn something. I always say a little learning is a dangerous thing. Take your pen,
what should we look forward to next week? Just very briefly.
So next week, we are going to look at starting to build the relationship between effective strategic communication and business growth. How can communication bring about profitability, reputation, brand loyalty, customer loyalty? So we are going to connect the dots, strategic communication and the business outcomes that you are looking for. How you can use communication to achieve those business outcomes.
I'm enjoying this thing so much. I don't know if you are, but God willing, Dr. Tandoh is back here with us next week. I have a funny feeling that we may keep him on longer than we've said we're going to keep him. But this has been Masterclass here on your Superstation. We spent time with Dr. Tandoh, HOD PR UNIMAC. He's been talking to us about fueling your business growth through strategy communications. This has been Masterclass. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you same time next week.
Thank you.